Hello and welcome. My name is Krista, and today we'll be planting up a little Halloween inspired fairy garden. Just starting off with a couple of the paints that I used in purple, orange, and black, as well as purple sparkles. I do also end up using a Mod Podge on the roof before the glitter. I picked up this little wooden house at my local craft store. I thought it would make a really cute little haunted house. And gathered a few assorted paintbrushes. These ones, I believe, when I bought them, I got them from the hardware store, as well as some wood stain. Through the magic of television and editing, I painted the house and put the sparkles on the roof as shingles and painted the stairs and the porch with the stain. I picked up these two plants at my local hardware store. They're tropical, and gathered some succulents and succulent cuttings that I had from around my house, or that I took from cuttings that I took from plants in my house. This is the container that I'll be planting in today, and it's not waterproof. It's not intended to be a planter. So to get around that, I'll be lining it with a heavy duty construction plastic bag. Any piece of plastic will work. I just like the thickness of these bags, and I'm just trimming the bag in half so I don't have as much plastic to work around, but I leave a really generous lip to work with. And once it's lined, we can add our soil. This is a bit of potting soil and perlite. I don't have enough of the perlite, so I'll just be adding in regular potting soil that was wet when I bought it. And I do have to be careful when I water this arrangement, because the tropical plants want a lot more water than the succulents do. And because I knew my potting soil was wet, I took the cuttings of the succulents a couple days early so that the succulents had a chance to heal over, so the ends wouldn't rot when I put them into the wet soil. And I'm just making sure everything is level, and I do end up building up underneath the house a little bit and adding a little bit more dirt in other places, just so that I can get the plants where I want them and have enough dirt. Another option around the different water requirements is you can leave the tropicals in the plant. The begonia, however, the pot was too big, so I end up taking it out, removing the soil and planting it, then deciding to do the same with the red tropical on the right. It'll be fine because this arrangement isn't meant to last forever. I'll be taking it down shortly after Halloween anyway. And for the succulent cuttings, I'm just popping off the leaves on the end because you don't want to bury any of those in the dirt, and just sticking them right in the soil. If I left them in the soil long enough, they would grow roots and become their own plant. And when I make little fairy gardens, I try to incorporate the colors red, purple, green, blue, and yellow. I find that combination is really visually appealing, trying to keep the taller ones in the back and the shorter ones in the front. And I do leave a space in the middle to draw your eye back to that house. Coming in with my little decorations. I bought these last year just at my craft store. The thing about these is you can reuse them year after year. If you can keep your plants alive, you can reuse them year after year. And if you get dust or dirt on your house or on your plants, just come in with a little paintbrush like I did there, just to dust them off. A lot of the succulents, you don't want to use your hands because it wipes off the powder on them or leaves fingerprints. And even with my arrangements, my little ornaments, I'm trying to keep in mind that I want the taller ones in the back and the shorter ones in the front. And now that I'm pretty much finished planting, I'll cut the excess off the plastic off, leaving very little excess around the rim, and then I'll come in and hide the infrastructure with that little black fence as well as some sphagnum moss. You can also use rocks. You can use little wood chips, whatever you have lying around will work. You can choose to glue them down. I didn't glue them down just because I know that I'm going to be taking this apart right after Halloween. So coming in now, just to make that walkway, I took a thick popsicle stick and just dipping it in my stain, which kind of got dried out accidentally, but I was able to get some fresh stuff. And using that paper towel just to smear it down the length of the stain. It does the popsicle stick. It doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, I don't want it perfect. And just setting that aside to dry, keeping the paper towel just for now. I went outside and I foraged some longer grasses just at the edge of the property. I live on an acreage, so longer grasses are kind of easy to find. And taking some stretch cord and just tying them together in little bundles. And when you put your bundles together, make sure that the seed head they're not all in one clump. You can put some that are shorter, some are longer, and that'll get like a nice wheat bundle effect. I'm just tying this off. And I do choose later to come in with a little bit of string and some hot glue. It's not really necessary. That step is completely optional. And I'm not going to cut the grass at this point because I'm not sure how long I want it, but eventually I will come in and trim off the ends, trim it down to the size that I want. And just taking that bit of hot glue, you can use any glue. I found that the hot glue was kind of more of a pain than it needed to be, so a super glue might be less bulky. But just wrapping a twine, it's just a cotton twine that I found in my drawer. In my mind, it mimics the color of like a baler twine or jute twine. You can use any color you want. It doesn't have to be a tan color. Coming in with a little bit of glue just to glue that end down. Trimming off the string. And trimming down the grass to the length that I want it. I made one earlier and I like the size of this grass, so I'll make it about the same size. I went out into my yard and I just cut a branch off of a red twig dogwood that I have. And I thought that would make like a really neat kind of like old, kind of gnarled tree. So I cut off one branch and I'm just cutting it down into shapes that I find interesting and that I think would make interesting trees. Coming back to that popsicle stick, I'm just going to trim the ends off with a pair of loppers. You don't have to use loppers. I've also used it with scissors and it works just fine. Now I don't want this walkway to be perfect, so I'm breaking it with my hands letting it kind of break where it may and just kind of breaking it into roughly equal pieces. I want it to look old and kind of neglected because it is a Halloween kind of haunted house. And coming back to that little piece of paper towel that we kept with the stain on it, I'm just trying to rub a little bit of the stain into the edges where it broke, just so it doesn't look so new. And coming back to our arrangement and putting it all together, starting with those little crested wheatgrass clumps, some little pine cones that I found in my yard. You can also get these at the craft store. And placing those little trees. And there it is, our little Halloween inspired fairy garden. With the finishing touch of just placing that walkway. And I'll leave you with some final images of our little fairy garden. Thanks for stopping by, and I will see you next time. Happy Halloween!